I still remember the day my son, Michael, brought her home. Her name was Emily, and I had met her a few times at school events and family gatherings before he told me he wanted to marry her. I tried to be welcoming, tried to tell myself that this was a new chapter for my son, that perhaps he had finally found someone who could share his life and understand him in ways only a partner could. But the moment she stepped into our home, something shifted. Subtly at first, almost imperceptibly, but it was there, like a shadow creeping into a room that had always been bathed in light. Michael had always been close to me. Since he was a little boy, he shared everything with me. I knew when he scraped his knee, when he had a crush, when he was worried about school. We had a bond that was rare, a connection built on years of trust, love, and countless late-night conversations. I thought that nothing could come between us, that no one could replace the role I played in his life. But Emily changed everything. At first, I tried to see the best in her. I told myself that perhaps she was just shy, that she needed time to warm up to her future mother-in-law. I invited her into our home, showed her old family photos, shared stories about Michael's childhood, hoping that she would feel a sense of belonging, that she would understand how much he meant to me and how deeply we had shared our lives. But instead of warmth, I felt a subtle coldness in her eyes, a distance in her smile, as if she were measuring me, sizing me up, and silently judging me. The first real moment I felt it was at Michael's engagement party. I had spent days preparing, decorating, cooking, wanting everything to be perfect for the two people I loved most in this world. I had imagined laughter, shared memories, the merging of two families. But Emily seemed uninterested in anything I had done. She barely glanced at the photos I had displayed, the albums of Michael's childhood that I had painstakingly organized. She moved through the room with an air of disinterest, chatting lightly with others but never stopping to truly connect with me. And Michael, he noticed none of it. He was so enthralled by her, so eager to please her, that he seemed to forget about me, as if the years we had spent together were suddenly irrelevant. After the engagement, things changed even more. Michael stopped telling me about his day, stopped sharing the little details that once filled my life with joy. I would sit in the kitchen, waiting for him to come home, hoping he would glance at me, ask how my day was, or just smile in that familiar way that used to make me feel like the most important person in the world. But he didn't. He barely acknowledged my presence. And Emily, she was always there, always in the middle, always between us, creating a barrier I couldn't cross. I remember one evening in particular. Michael had just returned from work, and Emily was in the living room, scrolling through her phone. I had baked his favorite pie, the one he loved as a child, hoping it would bring back memories of us, our bond, the countless moments we had shared. I placed it on the table and said, "Michael, I made your favorite. I thought we could have a little dessert together." He glanced at the pie, nodded politely, and said, "Thanks, Mom, that looks good." Then he turned to Emily, smiling broadly, and said, "Do you want a slice?" Emily smiled and nodded, and just like that, he walked away, leaving me standing there with a piece of pie that no one would eat with me. I felt invisible, replaced, as if all the years of love and care I had poured into him didn't matter anymore. I tried to talk to Michael about it. I wanted to tell him how lonely I felt, how much I missed the bond we had. But every time I brought it up, he would look at me with a mix of guilt and defensiveness. "Mom, she's my wife now. I love you, but you have to understand that some things are different." Different, that word cut deeper than any insult ever could. Different meant that I was no longer his confidant, no longer the person he turned to first, the person he trusted with his heart. Different meant that I was being replaced by someone who, in my eyes, didn't truly see him, didn't truly understand him.
Emily, I realized, didn't share our history. She didn't know about the nights Michael had cried in my arms when he felt misunderstood at school, the times he had clutched my hand, terrified of the world outside. She didn't know about the small rituals we had, the inside jokes, the quiet moments that had shaped his childhood. And because she didn't know, she didn't value them. She didn't value me. And Michael, he didn't see it. Or maybe he did, but he chose to ignore it, to prioritize her over me. The holidays were the hardest. Christmas used to be my favorite time of year because Michael and I would spend hours decorating the tree, baking cookies, singing silly songs, and laughing until our stomachs hurt. But after Emily came into our lives, it all changed. She had her own ideas, her own ways of doing things, and my traditions, my carefully built routines, were dismissed or ignored. I tried to adapt, tried to be welcoming, but it was never enough. I felt like an outsider in my own home, watching my son slip further and further away. There were moments, fleeting and rare, when I felt a glimmer of hope, when Michael would glance at me, a brief flicker of recognition in his eyes, or when he would tell me a story from his day, the old warmth would return for a heartbeat. But those moments were always short-lived. Emily was always there, her presence constant, her influence undeniable. She didn't need to do anything cruel or hurtful, just being herself, just being the person my son loved more than me was enough to make me feel small, insignificant, forgotten. I remember one particularly painful conversation. I had asked Michael if we could spend some time together, just the two of us, like we used to. I wanted to take a walk in the park, to talk, to reconnect. But he looked at me with hesitation and said, "Mom, Emily doesn't like it when I go off alone. She feels left out." Left out. That word cut like a knife. I wanted to scream, to tell him that I was his mother, that I had been there since the beginning, that I had shaped the person he had become. But I didn't. I swallowed my pain, nodded, and walked away, feeling more alone than I ever had in my life. As time went on, I tried to understand Emily. I tried to see her perspective, to forgive her for the ways she had distanced herself from me. Maybe she felt threatened, I thought. Maybe she didn't know how to connect with me. But understanding didn't ease the hurt. Watching my son prioritize her over me, watching him share his life with her while keeping me at arm's length was unbearable. I felt like I was fading, like the woman who had once been central to his world was slowly disappearing from it. I began to retreat into my memories. I would sit in Michael's old room, now filled with Emily's belongings, and remember the days when he would run to me with excitement, the nights when we would talk for hours, the moments when our laughter filled the house. I would cry silently, mourning not just the loss of those days, but the distance that had grown between us, a distance I feared might never be bridged. There were family gatherings, too, that became a source of pain. Relatives would comment on how Michael seemed so happy, how well he and Emily got along, while I sat quietly, smiling politely, pretending that everything was fine. Inside, I was crumbling. I felt like an outsider in my own home, watching my son slip further and further away. I began to notice small things, Michael's laughter when he talked to her, the way he would share his accomplishments with her first, the way he would consult her on decisions that we once made together, and I realized with a heartbreaking clarity that I had been replaced, not because I had failed as a mother, but because Emily had become the person my son needed in a different way, the person who now held the key to his heart. And while I understood it rationally, emotionally, it was devastating.
I tried to hold on to my dignity, tried to be gracious, tried to accept that this was the natural course of life, but acceptance didn't stop the ache, didn't stop the loneliness, didn't stop the feeling of being cast aside. I longed for those simple moments, for the quiet companionship, for the shared understanding that had once defined my relationship with Michael. I longed to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be loved in the way only a mother can be. One day I found myself looking through an old photo album, pictures of Michael as a boy, his smile radiant, his eyes full of mischief. I traced my fingers over the images, remembering the days when it was just the two of us, when we were inseparable. I whispered to the empty room, "Do you remember, Michael? Do you remember how we were?" And in that moment, I realized that while he might never fully return to that closeness, those memories were mine to keep. They were a part of me, a testament to the love I had poured into his life. And so I continue. I continue to love, quietly from the sidelines. I watch as Michael and Emily build their life together. I see the joy they share, and I try to be happy for them, even as my heart aches. I try to find solace in the moments when Michael glances at me, when I see the faintest flicker of recognition, when I know that despite everything, our bond is not completely lost. I have learned that love is not always about being at the center. Sometimes it is about watching from the shadows, holding on to the memories, and hoping that one day the connection that was once so strong can be rekindled. I am still his mother. I always will be. And even if I feel replaced, even if I am no longer his confidant, I will continue to love him with all my heart, hoping that someday he will remember and we will find our way back to each other. Because being a mother is not about being first, it is about loving unconditionally, even when it hurts, even when it feels like you are fading away. And I will continue to love Michael, quietly, fiercely, and without regret, because that is what mothers do.